Hey, welcome to Geek Speak, where we speak geeky. So, tell me, brother, what you want to talk about first?
Something I've learned just recently learned about. I didn't know was a thing. So when you and I play Dungeons and Dragons, one
Hmm.
of us is Dungeon Master 9 times out of 10 or 100 times out of 10. Anyway, you're the DM.
Yes, on occasion.
So whenever I go to the gaming store to either look for minis or a new set of dice because I forgot to bring mine, there's usually games going on. Well, I did not know that there's such a thing called a game master. Back in the day, we called them dungeon master, but they
Yeah.
call them game masters. And they are the ones that come up with the stories and entertain the group and guide them where they need to be. And I did not know that stores often pay people to be game masters in their store. I thought the stores would just open it up and allow them to play games in their store. But apparently, a lot of bigger stores pay game masters to come in and run campaigns.
Probably couldn't make a living at it.
Well, the thing is up until recently, they have been okay getting paid in store credit.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
because they're geeks.
yeah.
They're doing their geeky
And
thing.
this is typically done at like a comic book
Yeah,
store.
well, no, in
Yeah,
your gaming stores.
yeah.
There's there's gaming stores and comic book stores,
And
and then
sometimes they're a little bit of both.
sometimes they're both. But
It's when
now
you
there's
walk. It's when you walk in, you see about 30 long tables set up. That's
right.
usually a sign.
So now there's a movement to where game masters and other store people are like, hey, you're being entertained anywhere from 2 hours to 4 hours by this person.
Yeah.
They're literally entertaining you. You're not just like watching a movie. You pay $13, maybe more, to go to the movies. So they're thinking about making a movement to where gamers actually pay a little bit to come in to be entertained.
Yeah, I mean, if like when we play Dungeons and Dragons, we set it up on my kitchen table,
Right,
and so, but I mean, if you don't have the space, if you've got a large group and you don't have the space,
right,
going to one of these hobby shops or
right.
a comic book shop that provides a table, I could understand. You're using their electricity, you're using their space. I could see them
Well, I mean, what about
charging somewhat.
the terrain they build and things
Yeah,
like that, and the
I mean,
maps that they make and the storylines?
I always thought that, like, you go to a coffee shop, you don't have to pay to sit down. They're making their money off you buying coffee. And
Right,
I assumed at these gaming places, when you go there to game, they may sell you snacks, they may sell you miniatures or dice
right.
or cards if you're into Pokemon or Magic the Gathering. So I figured that's how
Well,
they made their
apparently, a
money.
lot of the stores will actually have their own game master.
Interesting.
Yeah,
So, have you seen all the Hellboy movies?
I hadn't seen the last one.
Well, of course, Ron Perlman,
Right,
I think he made the best Hellboy.
I agree.
And those first two movies come out, and then they had David Harbour, who you know as Red Guardian in
Right.
Thunderbolts. He did the third one, and I really enjoyed those movies.
Was
But
there
they
somebody between them?
no, but there was a couple of animated things, and
Hmm.
there's a new movie I'm getting ready to talk about. But Ron Perlman and even David Harbour, those movies were kind of geared toward like superhero movies
Okay,
or maybe action movies.
right.
And so when they come out with the trailer for Hellboy, The Crooked Man, you saw it in one of our Geek Speaks. I think last year you kind of poo-pooed on it.
Hmm.
And so I happened to get a chance to watch it. And you were right. The guy that played Hellboy was nowhere near as good as David Harbour or certainly not Ron Perlman. But the movie's my favorite Hellboy movie.
Ah,
It was real low budget. Some no-name company made it, and it kind of reminded me. I mean, it leaned toward horror. Hellboy is a horror comic, and so it was made by Mike Mignola, and he come out with it several years ago. And so, but the thing is, it come out as a horror comic, not as a superhero comic.
is it a horror or supernatural?
Well, horror slash supernatural.
Because I don't recall seeing like tons of blood and stuff in it.
Yeah, there was well, I mean, for a comic book, they kept it kind of PG-13, but I think this movie was rated R. But I mean, it was like I'm not into horror movies
Right.
so much, but I have watched my share because Teresa's into them, and just because I'll watch one on occasion. But it was good. It was good. I really really liked it, and Mike Mignola wrote an original story for it, and it was more true to the comics than what Ron Perlman or David Harbour did. So I recommend it. On a scale from 1 to 10, I probably give it an 8.
Huh.
So, what else you want to talk about?
Well, I'm going to kind of jump around on topics because you mentioned horror movie. This really isn't a horror movie per se, but do you remember the old Toxic Avenger movies?
Oh yeah, they were so bad they were good.
Yeah, right. They were.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were really campy, really weird
Low
budget.
budget, yeah.
But there's a fan base out there. Well, what I found out this week was that they had finished wrapping on a new Toxic Avenger in 2021.
Yeah.
And it's supposed to release August of this year.
Is it big budget or is it another low budget?
It's fairly a bigger budget because they have Peter Dinklage
Yeah, yeah,
playing the Toxic Avenger.
yeah.
They have Elijah Wood in it.
Peter Dinklage, they got the midget guy playing.
Little person.
Well, I can say what it's America. I can say whatever. I
America.
want. He's a midget.
Yeah, yes, they had Peter Dinklage, which is really weird because when I think of him, I think of more like Shakespearean kind of acting.
Yeah, he did great as Tyrion Lannister in
Right.
Game of Thrones. Yeah,
And Elijah Wood's in it. He's playing.
He's
some
pretty good in Elf,
weird
too.
Character. Let's see. There's somebody else in it. Kevin Bacon is playing the villain.
so yeah, it's going to have to be big budget.
But anyway,
just to pay for those guys.
it's supposed to be pushing the envelope of what all the other movies did. The other movies didn't show a lot of horror.
Yeah.
This one here is supposed to be like they released what's called a red band trailer.
Yeah,
And it's like showing people getting their bottom jaws ripped off, being hit by a nuclear mop or whatever the hell he carries. And I'm sitting here
good.
thinking, no.
Oh, you don't think it'd be good?
No, and I'm sitting here thinking, how in the world did they freaking end up getting these big name actors to do this movie?
Well, I mean, it's pretty easy.
You got to fork out some money.
I could get Kevin Bacon to show up for your birthday
Well,
party if I pay him enough.
The company who's owned the rights to it for
Yeah.
years is called Comos or Kamos or something, and they've been ringing Toxic Avenger for everything they've got because they've never come up with anything else.
Yeah, yeah.
And so, I don't know where they got the budget to get these actors, but
Yeah. Well, hopefully it'll be good. We'll give it a chance.
I'm.
We don't want
Okay,
anything
so
to
how many
fail.
Toxic Avenger movies do you know of?
I think I've seen 2. I know I've seen 2, maybe 3.
There's been 5.
5? No, I'm not that big of a Toxic Avenger fan.
Did you know there was a cartoon series?
No,
Yeah.
no. So I learned something today.
Yeah.
Well, so one of my favorite author would be Tolkien, but one of my favorite authors is Peter David, and he recently passed away. He did the Incredible Hulk. He did a run on Incredible Hulk comics, and he did a lot of the Star Trek comics back in the day, and but he's also done a ton of Star Trek novels. And like M. Zadi is one of the best Star Trek novels ever, and I just recently reread it. And but yeah, he passed away, and it was kind of tragic. I mean, he had a bunch of
Why is her nose rubbed off?
because I bought it at a used bookstore.
Oh, okay. I was like,
I didn't rub her nose off. Somebody else did that. I didn't have the pleasure of rubbing her nose off. But he had Sir Apropos of Nothing, and so he had some comics. Red Angel, I think her name was, but he had several things that he owned himself. But the point is, he's a well-known, fantastic author. So you would think he'd be rolling in money, but he died really destitute. First of all, he went through a divorce, which cuts everything you got in half.
right.
But then on top of that, he had long-term illness. When you've got long-term illness anywhere, especially in America, it just drains you of every penny that you have. And so he even had like GoFundMe pages at the end of his life, trying to stay on top of medical bills and trying to have enough money to eat. A lot of people were clamoring and upset because he'd done such great work, especially for Marvel. They felt like Marvel should take care of him. I'm a little different in that I'm more realistic, where he knew he was doing work for hire. So even though he created Spider-Man 2099, even though he'd done a great run on X Factor and done a great run on Incredible Hulk, he knew it was pay for hire. You know, I mean, he was playing somebody else's toy box. He was playing somebody else's toys, and so
Right.
even though he worked for that company, you know, there was an exchange there. I'll give you my skill and talent for this amount, and there was an agreement. The fact that he had problems later in life, I hate that.
Right.
And I got the chance to meet the guy before he passed away, probably about 5 years ago. But the thing is that it's nobody's fault. Those things that happened to him, those things just happen in life.
Right.
And I disagree with the fact that Marvel is bad because they didn't step in and take care of that guy. You know, this.
I agree. I
You
mean,
know,
he
it's not Marvel's not a cult.
to an extent.
Yeah,
I mean, I agree that the
it's a
man
business.
should have set back. But like
Yeah.
you said, medical bills can drain that.
Oh
real
yeah,
quick.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
So,
But anyway, yeah, I hate that.
but
We lost a great
there's
author.
people giving money to GoFundMe's that don't deserve.
Anybody can set up a GoFundMe.
Right.
Yeah. So what else you want to talk about?
Let's see. So, you know me, I like tangible things, comic books, things like that. But I'm into collecting toys and stuff, so I like to keep my eyes on the toy companies. And Hasbro has like these Hasbro Plus, and I like watching their Star Wars figures to see if they come out with anything new and obscure characters that they don't usually have. But I laughed out loud the other day. You know the Red Guardians.
You LOL'd.
Yes. Yes, all over the place. And
The Red Guardians.
the Red Guards, you know, the guys with the straight helmets.
Yeah.
that
You talking
dress in
about
red.
Star Wars?
Yes.
Crimson Guard.
Yeah, the Crimson
Yeah,
Guards.
yeah,
Crimson Guard.
yeah.
So they're releasing a new one, but it's all white and glows in the dark.
Oh.
And they've put some kind of skull looking pattern on his face. And I'm pretty sure they did this like during Halloween. They did a
Yeah.
stormtrooper that
Yes.
was all in black
Yeah,
with
yeah.
green that didn't glow in the dark. But so now they've released this, and it's the goofiest looking thing I've ever seen in the world, and it's like out for pre-order now. And I'm sitting here thinking, is somebody really such a completist that they're going to try to go out and spend
Yeah, they do that. They do that.
for-
Take an existing mold of a toy and they'll slap colors on it for Pride Month, or they'll make it neon and try
Right.
to say you can stick it underneath the black light. Hey, Mr. Tight Pants, your truck is beeping outside again. So what happens when you wear pants that are too tight?
My pants ain't too tight.
Well, that makes the second time you've done that. Now it's
My pockets are. It wasn't beeping while ago.
Yeah, we don't edit. But anyway,
Sorry, guys.
or rarely edit. Okay, so I recently saw. Remember the old movie Hollow Man with Kevin Bacon and Elizabeth
Yes.
Shue? Well, we have movie night once a week where Teresa pick a movie and I pick a movie and we pop some popcorn. And she eats it and I watch her eat it. And then, because I'm not a popcorn fan.
Okay.
But anyway, she picked Hollow Man. Now, this is an old movie. I can't remember exactly when it came out. But it's, of course, about the story, a remake or a retake on The Invisible Man. Fantastic movie. What blew me away was how old that movie was and how good the CGI was.
Oh yeah.
CGI, and we'll talk about this a little bit more on the next Two Old Geeks Talking, but CGI is really, the quality has dropped over the last few years. People have noticed that in Pirates of the Caribbean and some of the things that came out earlier that these streaming services are coming out with so much content and they've got a limited amount of budget, and even movies are paying their actors so much they're trying to cut costs by cutting down on CGI. The skill level of those that do CGI has dropped also, and the CGI in this old movie should look old, but it actually looks better than a lot of the new stuff that were coming out now. A lot of the new stuff, like She-Hulk, a lot of people
It could be that they didn't push the envelope of what they needed it to do. They only used it to
They're doing the bare minimum.
to the distance
Right.
that it could go at the
And
time,
for-
and then
and
try
for-
to exceed that.
Right, and for me, it doesn't matter. I mean, we grew up with old Harryhausen, stop motion
Right.
monsters and stuff like that. But at the same time, I do see a noticeable drop in CGI in new movies. So, what else you want to talk about?
I ain't got anything else
You
right now.
done?
Yep.
Okay, my comic book recommendation is a comic book called Vamps. It's come out. It was written by Lane Lee and drawn by William Simpson. It's about a bunch of biker vampire chicks. And if that don't turn you on, well, then you probably couldn't be friends. It's got good art in it. It's got a good story. They had a couple of different miniseries. I recommend it. It's a good horror comic. They're a little bit feminist for my taste. They're kind of man-hating women, vampire bikers. And but I still enjoyed it. It was still good. It was still a good read. Feminists actually do exist, and so it's no big deal. But
they're not vampires.
Yeah, well, they may be. I don't know. I don't know them all. But anyway, so yeah, it was a decent book. Pick it up. In fact, that series plus some other stuff I have up on our 2 Geeks eBay page.
Nice.
So I'm thinning my collection out, keeping the good stuff, trying to sell you all the crap. And so if you're interested in our crap, check out 2 Geeks, and there'll be a link down in the description, and you can buy some of our old crap. So you done?
I'm done.
I'm not done.
Oh, really?
No.
Okay.
Somebody had a birthday recently. This guy right here. And so the other day he came over to the house, and he said, "You know what? I don't consider myself a jealous person, but I have to admit I'm kind of jealous over something." And I was like, "Yeah, what's that?"
I'm trying to remember what the hell they
And
were.
you were like, "Your toilet lids, they don't slam down. They drop really, really slow. So I got you a toilet lid that lowers really slow for your birthday." So, all right. There you go.
Nice.
That's a good brother, right?
There you go.
So anyway, man, just wait till you get home. You don't realize how life's good until you just let go of that toilet seat and it goes down real slow.
I'll have to put some kind of like Lord of the Rings.
There you go.
symbol or
All right, big guy. All right. You done?
I'm done.
All right, we are done. Stay geeky, my friends.
Later.
And hit that like button and subscribe and bell notification. You know the drill.
And wear loose pants.